Chop piece. Alrighty. Just a quick intro here.
Well, here we are. Hey everybody, Kay here from Late Bloomer Homestead. I'm with my old friend Daryl Luck and my new friend Steven at Nature's Always Right YouTube channel. Be sure and check out his channel. We have been doing some great videos today and yesterday, and I hope you'll see all those on both of our channels. But today we've got something really, really beneficial and educational, and Daryl is going to take it away.
If you are out there stuck in the city and you want out, but you don't have money, you're sitting there thinking you don't even have hope, you need to watch this video to the end. Everything I have in here, these are outside the box ideas you probably never even thought of. You're not going to make it if you're doing it the standard way. If you're stuck in the city and you're struggling right now, you're not going to be able to save money to make this move or to buy land or whatever you're thinking of doing just by working some extra hours at your job, or, bigger changes need to happen. And I'm telling you, I have ideas here. You don't need any money. There are ways you can escape that city. You could be living in the country next week, possibly, off some of these ideas. So stick with me for all this. But the first thing to consider is the most important thing is your attitude, okay? It's how your frame of mind is going to be about this, and remaining positive throughout the whole process, because there's going to be challenges and difficulties along the way. And you may have to lower your standard of living a little bit for a while. That's part of it. So the attitude is the most important thing, and I want to hear from Kay and from Steven, because they recently made the move from California to Tennessee. It was a big deal for both of them, I'm sure, and I bet they had some low times and some challenges, so let's hear how they got through it.
You know, I tended to solve one problem at a time, and so I focus on one problem and I try to get through that and do that the best I can, and then I put another big challenge in front of me, and so there was always another and another and another challenge, and then it was time to plant a garden. So I just tried to build it piece by piece, just like I built my gardens, fix what had to be fixed, and then move to the next thing, get the raised beds, do this, do that, and that's the way I keep going, is just figuring out what most needs to be done in the next thing. If it's dishes, if it's doing your dishes, or if it's fixing, replacing your roof, it's just one thing after another. What about you, Steven?
I guess what kept me positive, in the beginning and continuing to, is just this dream that I've always had of owning my own land, developing the property, being able to teach people about how to do this stuff. So that goal kind of keeps me very driven to never give up. And the more things that you do in farming, whatever it is, the more skills that you build, the more confidence that you're going to get each time that you do another new thing, another new skill. I did sheep. I got sheep for the first time ever a year and a half ago, and I know so much now. And you just got to, in farming and gardening and homesteading, I like to say there's a 3-year learning curve for every skill. By the time you get to that 3rd year, you should be pretty proficient in whatever that thing is that you've learned. So just hang in there and you're gonna have success in the end.
These guys did their move just recently, and I did it when I was in my early 20s, okay? So back in the mid-1970s is when I made my escape from the city. And so my perspective, and that's why that's why I said if you have no money and no hope, that's where I was at, okay? So for young people, I have a lot of great advice, but there's stuff for everybody here. Even if you have some money to work with, or even a lot of money to work with, some of these ideas can be really helpful to you to make this changeover, because it's a big deal to switch from city life to country life. All right.
We just did that. San Diego, LA.
Yep, that's a big deal. First things I'm going to talk about are pre-transition times, the time you have before you actually make the move out of the city. For some people, you might think it's going to be a few weeks or many months, or you want to work an extra 6 months at your job and save up some money, or you're going to have a time frame to work. Maybe it's going to be a couple years. Well, that's not so bad. I mean, the sooner the better, I'd say, with what's going on in the world. But if that's the way it is for you, use that time wisely. So during your pre-transition time, main thing you want to do is acquire skills. that'll be applicable in the country. Okay, so I mean, if you've got years to work with, well, you can take night courses or something and learn a trade, or you could, if you have a couple years, you go to a trade school, become a plumber, an electrician, a carpenter, a welder, or something. You have a skill like that under your belt, man, you're way ahead of the game when you get to the country. You'll be in demand, believe me.
Oh yeah.
And tons of jobs. You know how hard it is in the country to find good people to do work for you? If you're an electrician, a handyman, any of those types of jobs, you will never run out of work.
Yep.
And I think that's a great business to do if you're moving from another state to another state. Something like that is fantastic.
You're more independent that way.
That's,
you can move around.
You can barter those skills as well.
And if you're young and good with tools, which I wasn't.
And you can also be reading books, of course, or looking at videos. You can learn a lot just watching YouTube videos. Or maybe in real life you can learn. There's a neighbor building a porch and you can help him out and learn some carpentry. Or you can go to a homesteading conference and learn how to slaughter a chicken or raise pigs or whatever. So, make use of that time, whatever it is, a few years, months, weeks, whatever. Be busy and focused on what you're doing, because this is a huge change. So you're not going to sit around in the evening and keep watching Netflix. You're not going to go do some of the things you were squandering your money on before, eating at restaurants and all that. This is a big change. You have to stay focused. So,
You'll never eat out again.
Yes, start cooking at home. That was the next thing I was going to say, that saves you so money. And let me say this to young men out there. Shame on you if you don't know how to cook your own food.
Yeah.
Come on. That's just ridiculous. You need that skill. Everybody does.
That's right.
You could be in a couple situation and then all of a sudden it changes and you're alone. And you don't even know how to boil an egg? I mean, come on. That's just pathetic. Okay, so let's just end that. Okay, that's just horrible. All right. But you might want to do extreme things to maybe accumulate a little more money so you have some seed money to do something with, okay? So you might want to abandon your apartment you're in and move back in with your parents, or just rent a room instead of a whole apartment, or live in a car or a tent for a while, because rent takes the biggest chunk of money from you. So if you can take that and in some way make it where it's a lot cheaper or you don't have to pay anything, then all that money is in your pocket for the future.
Okay, after I downscaled from the house, I went into an apartment thinking, I'm going to try to keep an apartment and then I'll look for my homestead in Tennessee and I'll go back and forth. And oh my goodness, that rent was killer. And I just said, I can't afford to do this. And you did just the opposite, right?
Yeah, what we did is, kind of lucked out because some family friends had a little granny flat at the back of their property. They had a big backyard and I was like, hey, can we live there and then I'll farm in the backyard?
Excellent.
And that was a God thing that it all worked out like that. But it was like $750 a month, I think it was, which is incredibly cheap. But it's a 250 square foot small apartment. And then when we eventually came to Tennessee to start looking, we did 6 months of looking online, really understanding the market, and it's our first time buying property, or talking to a real estate agent. All of those concepts that are new, and so it was a big learning curve in the beginning, and then once we found some properties we liked, we thought, we know the areas that we liked. We had done a trip a year before even seriously looking, where we went to the 3 big cities in Tennessee and checked all those out. Which big city do we want to be outside of? Which one is our main one that we like the most, or we like the land the best, or it felt like we looked at I felt that the northeastern part of Tennessee had better farmland, a little bit more more choices of properties than down south more, and but we liked Chattanooga better as a city. It just was more of our vibe.
As a city not to be living in, but
the one you go to occasionally.
But we don't even go there now. So it's like,
I know.
There was really that, maybe that wasn't the best choice. But anyways.
I did that with Nashville because my mother's in a facility there for, memory care unit. And so I didn't want to be farther than an hour away from Nashville.
So you see how much comes at play in here, things to consider and influencing your decisions, So, but the main thing here at the beginning, the pre-transition time, is to lower your expenses, get out of debt if you're in debt. Go watch Dave Ramsey. He's got great ideas on how to get yourself out of debt. And, start shopping at Goodwill and thrift shops for clothes and whatnot. Don't go buy brand new. try, like I said, be prepared to lower your standard of living for a while. Maybe for a long while till you really get to what you want to do. But let me remind you, coming up, I've got ideas. I can get you into the country with no money. So hang in there, it's coming up soon. I'm not lying.
Did you get this at Goodwill?
What, this?
Yeah.
Probably. All right. So the other thing you can do besides, acquiring skills, lowering your expenses, trying to save up a little extra money, is you can start studying on the internet. The internet's great. I didn't have that when I was doing that back in the 70s, but study about the places you think you want to move to. Maybe you want to be a certain place because there's family or friends there, or maybe the whole country's open to you. Well, you don't know where you want to go. Well, now you've got a lot of research to do, and you can do it all online. I mean, so much of it. Study, pick a small town. I might want to move to Nebraska. Let's check out that little town, and read about it. Find out what the crime statistics are. What's the average age, the average income, the average price of a house. Learn about that place before you ever go there. You might scratch a lot of these off your list and not have to go there, and try to make that decision so that when the time comes, you know exactly where you're going. And that'll save you a lot. Okay, so now it's not pre-transition time anymore. It's time for the big move.
Excuse me, did you get out of California before the moving van shortage?
Was there a moving ban?
Oh yeah, it was tough to get a U-Haul.
No,
Oh, before that, yes, we were out before that.
Yeah. So when I moved, everybody's going, they're going to charge you much more to move out of California because so many people were leaving and they weren't going back the other way.
Right.
They couldn't get a ride back the other way.
Now you've decided where you want to go. All right, go there. Okay, this is what your seed money's for. If you were able to do that, don't worry. I've still got things. If you have no money, it's coming up. But if you got a little seed money, okay, get yourself to that area. Maybe you're going to live in your car or your tent. Maybe you had bought a little camper and you got a little camper to live in. Maybe you're going to rent a room or something like that. But as soon as you get there, start talking to people. Let them know what you're looking for and the skills you have to offer. And even, I won't say don't worry if you don't have any skills, because it's way better if you do. But if you have no skills, nobody has no skills. Come on, you know how to clean a house, right? You can wash cars, you can mow a lawn. I mean, you can make money doing all that stuff. You can start your own business in a real simple way with hardly any investment. So, don't give up because you think I don't know how to do anything. Yes, you do. Except maybe you can't boil an egg yet, young man. You better get on that.
Anybody can boil an egg.
I don't know.
Just depends on if it's edible or not.
All right, so the first issue for you is going to be, I think, is housing. You need a place to home base, okay? And then it's going to be get some kind of work and make some money, and then you're looking for maybe a choice situation you can move into or whatever. But this is in the very beginning. So, okay. If you have a camper or a trailer or something like that, that's really great. You could even pull into a campground and you can rent by the week or the month in a lot of those places, and you have a home base now, and you can drive around and do what you need to do.
Well, now you guys were really pushing me
To do that.
Yes. But my problem was all of my earthly possessions, except what I stuffed in my Prius, were in a warehouse in California. And with all of that going on in the moving van situation, I wanted everything over here, and then I would have to move it all over here and then put it into storage. In retrospect, and maybe you would want to put this on a tip, it's like if you know that you're scaling down and you're changing your lifestyle, get rid of your stuff before you go.
Absolutely.
Oh, that actually was the last thing on my list. I didn't mention it. Sell unneeded stuff. That's pre-transition thing.
I can't tell you how much I wish I had. Of course, we can't know the future, what was coming, and all of that. These are 3 unprecedented years in our lifetimes. But if I could go back, I would sell everything.
I've heard other people say that, and just buy new when you get there, or buy used.
Buy used. Oh my gosh, so much amazing solid oak furniture.
Oh my gosh.
Everywhere for so cheap.
Yes.
Yeah, antique stores, thrift shops, you can get great stuff.
Absolutely.
The other thing you want to consider is trading your skill or your time for housing instead of paying rent, okay? There's what you can find this out there. You just need to talk to people. And also nowadays, see, you guys have social media. I didn't have that, I had to go and talk to actual individual live people, which I still suggest is a good idea. But you can do it online too, and post who you are and they can see a picture of you. Maybe watch a little video with you talking. That's going to make a lot of people more secure about, I might want to hire that guy. He seems like a nice fellow, or something. So, use it to your advantage and try to trade and try to not part with your hard-earned money for your housing. That's going to save you the most. And now, this was my personal story. When I made my transition, I was a poor hippie back in 1970, what year was that? I was there, 76, the bicentennial year. Is when I was walking in the woods and I was following this creek and I saw a little road going up the mountain and I followed that, not a hard surface road, a back road. And up at the top of the hill was a big clearing with a farmhouse sitting in the middle and all overgrown in honeysuckle and everything. It was obviously abandoned. There were no doors or windows in this house, but the roof looked decent and the siding looked good. And I went inside and all the plaster looked good. It was that old horsehair, it was an old-timey house.
Wow.
Okay, and so I fell in love with the place right away. I could live here. And it had no electricity, no power lines coming in or anything, and no running water, nothing like that. It was just an old farmhouse, like the old-timey days. But I wanted to learn that lifestyle. That was the direction I was headed. So I was like, I could do this. I found the owner, a college professor that owned it, and I arranged with him, if you'll let me live there for free, I'll help you fix that house up. And he was all for that. And he would buy windows and doors, and we bought a hand pump there was a well right beside the house. So I had water, good water. It was 300 feet down, but we had a hand pump. I could get good water. I made an outhouse. I fixed up the inside of the house a whole lot. He let me use barn siding. He wanted to tear the barn down eventually, and it was that beautiful aged barn siding. I fixed that and decked that place up so much. He was just blown away what I did there. So it was really cool. Anyway, I got to live there for free. And I had a little business operating at the time, buying and selling stuff at flea markets. And so, I could do a little gardening and work on the house and make a little money. And I didn't have to hand over big chunks for my rent. It was huge for me. And then I got a little seed money together and made my move to Tennessee, where I didn't know anyone or anything. It was just, that's where I chose. Don't ignore those abandoned houses you see around. I'm serious, because
there are a lot.
Every abandoned house out there has an owner. And they are probably very unhappy with the situation and worried about that house. It's going to get vandalized or burned down or just deteriorate from nobody being in it. And I mean, a lot of people would be open to something like that. If you have some skills, carpentry, painting, whatever, approach them. You might find yourself a place to live for free.
You can find out the name and phone number and address of the homeowners through the internet. There's multiple websites. I can't think of one off the top of my head, but there are ways to find that information. It's all public records, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And now here's what you all been waiting for. How can I get out of the city with no money and be out of there pretty quick? This is it.
Your thumb?
Yeah, you can hitchhike out. It'd be nice if you had enough for a bus trip or something saved
Remember
up.
when people used to do that?
Oh yeah, I did a lot of that. And back then it wasn't
safe.
It seemed safe, and a lot of people were doing it.
I know.
It's not like that anymore. All right, here's the thing. You can be a house sitter or a farm tender, okay? Where people have a nice farm, but they want to take a vacation for a month. They're going to the Caribbean, right?
I need one.
He wants to do that, maybe. So, maybe you got some chickens that need to be fed, or a dog they're going to leave behind for you to care for, or watering a garden, or, whatever upkeep they need. You do what they would have done if they had stayed, And if you're a responsible person, you're an honest, dependable person, this is you could end up hopping from house to house and live all over the country and try to figure out where you want to live that way. And it could be awesome. You could be living in a nice mansion up in Colorado with a mountain view, and then you're on the seashore up in Maine all of a sudden, and who knows? So it's an interesting lifestyle. And if you want to get into it, here's 2 websites to check out. TrustedHouseSitters.com. It's an organization to link up people that want it and people that want to do it. Okay? And the other one is HouseSittingMagazine.com. And I noticed their webpage was pretty interesting because they had a real detailed description of what is expected of you as a good house sitter. And if you read through that and you think, I could do that, well then get busy, because you could line something up in a few days and you're out of the city that quick. They might want you so bad they'll pay your bus fare or whatever to get you there. So, you know, that's what I'm talking about. No money, and you can still do it. So don't give up. Don't be
Now,
hopeless.
This is really more, I mean, I have to interject. This is really more for the younger
Yes, this is for the young
Yeah.
people mostly. Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
I mean, once you've
Without a family.
Yeah, once your bones start creaking and,
Right.
and it's harder to sleep on the floor and the ground and stuff.
And yeah, you said without a family. I mean, that is definitely easier if it's just a single person out there doing this.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
don't give up.
No.
You know, if you're a couple or you're a couple with a child or two, I mean, it is going to make it a little more challenging, but it can't. It shouldn't stop you.
Yeah,
You know.
I've seen many families do the same exact thing. So
I
there's
know.
there's ways.
I just heard
there's lot
about
of
a
ways to do
family
it.
that they had a tiny little camper, and they were because the husband was some kind of a jobber that went from job to job, state to state, and they wanted to keep the family together. They were homeschooling, and they had 4 kids, and they were in this tiny little thing, and they reached out for some help through a community. And they wound up getting a really good deal on a bigger one. And, you know, I mean, there are people that are out there that will help you if you really look for it.
That's something I hadn't thought to mention. You know, there is a difference, I think, between city folk and country folk. Okay?
Oh, yeah.
And when you move to the country,
You made an interesting point today about that.
You're going to find that people are helpful, and you know they'll try to help you find what you want. I mean, they just seem nicer out in the country. They're more relaxed. You know, it's hectic and difficult to live in a city. You know, tempers
Well,
are flaring.
Not only talking about right now, but I mean, when I lived in New York, I mean, even though I was in a decent neighborhood, you would get home and you would push the door back and you go lock, you know, and you go,
Oh
I
my
made
God.
it, you know.
Jeez, what a way to live.
Yeah, city life.
But
Yeah,
I mean,
wow, amazing.
you would just feel like I made it, you know, and
Jeez.
I mean, it's not you weren't always walking around in fear, but I'm just saying that you know it's so different.
Yes.
You know, so different.
Yeah, when I moved here, I've been telling people that I feel like I went back in time 30 years in American culture. That's what it feels like. Like when I was growing up and it was real America and people were nice and not so selfish and just totally degenerate. American culture is now totally degenerate, and that's how I would describe it.
Yeah.
But it is not like that here, thank goodness.
Yeah.
But
Right.
if you go to Nashville, it's quite degenerate. So it still exists
it-
within the cities, but the country all across America is fantastic. So the real divide in America, in my opinion, is city people versus rural people. That's the big clash that we can't come to an agreement upon.
Yeah.
So.
It's really hard.
All right, one more idea. You have no money at all, but you want out. You can arrange with an organic farm to stay there and work and maybe get room and board also, and you're going to learn organic farming in the process, so it's a double whammy there, you know. And there's an organization to help you do this. Let's see.
Woof.
Yeah,
WWOOFing.
do you remember
WW.
what's it
It's
stand
like
for?
Organization of Organic Farming. Something
There,
like
okay,
that.
so
We'll
it's
put, we'll put the link down there.
it's WWOOFusa.org. Okay, and
You
that
can also do this in other countries as well.
yeah, that said
Yeah.
USA. Yeah, it's a worldwide thing they do. So yeah, you can go to another country and do it. You know, that's true.
If you were adventurous, you might find yourself in a castle somewhere in Europe. That'd be kind of cool, right?
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
You're working in the vineyard.
That would be neat.
And the
Yeah.
last thing for housing, when you're first arriving in your new place, if you have a little bit of money, maybe you just want to get an Airbnb for a while until you get your bearings and figure out what you're going to do there. And who knows? A lot of Airbnbs, they're looking for people to live there and clean the place up after each guest goes. Maybe they have a little apartment above the garage or a basement room or something where you would live for free, and all you had to do is clean that room up anytime a guest, you know, vacated. So, you know, just be looking for all those kind of possibilities, and that's all. You don't need any money if you come up with some of that for your housing. I mean, that's huge. Okay, the next thing you're going to worry about, you got a roof over your head, whatever it is, you're living in a tent for a while, whatever you're going to do, you're looking for some work now. You got to make some money, you got to buy food, you got to survive. Well, about the food, see if that area has any CSAs. This is Community Supported Agriculture. It's a program where a farmer that grows a lot of food has a group of people that are involved in his farm to some degree or another. They might just pay him a set amount at the beginning of the year, and that gives him money to buy seed and do things and all that. And then when harvest time comes, they get a weekly basket of vegetables, whatever's coming in. It'll be different every time maybe. And so you get, your food taken care of, you paid for it, and you don't have to do any work. But they also have it where you can go to the farm and help out at the farm. And depending on how many hours you put in, if you do enough, you get your weekly basket of food for free. Okay, and you're going to get to know this farmer. You're going to learn about the whole process of growing food, which you want to learn maybe, and he might know someone that has the kind of setup you're looking for. And it's just you're in the community hobnobbing with people that live there, and things can happen that way. So a CSA would be a good connection when you first get there if they have one. And then the other one is you want to make money, and we touched on it a little bit earlier, but is just start your own business. And it sounds like, oh, how can I do that? Well, if you have a little bit of money, but these are businesses that doesn't take much investment, and you're in business, okay? Like if you got a steady hand and you think you could be a house painter, it doesn't take, really brushes and rollers and a ladder can do it. And of course nowadays a lot of sprayers are being used, but they're not that expensive, and you'd be set up with your equipment pretty quick. And if you're a good painter, word of mouth will find you more business.
Two of the places that I was recommended to go to when I went to an area was the extension office, where you can meet the main extension officer. They often know a lot about, and they know all the farmers, and they might know of people that need help, or could at least put you in touch with somebody.
Or the farmers co-op.
That was the other one I was going to say. So
last
year I was at the farmers co-op, and I was buying electric wire for my electric fence, and I had gear there, and I had already looked on the job board several times when I was there, and it just wasn't any real adverts on there. So I was sitting there waiting for him to ring me up, and I just looked around, and there was a man waiting in line, and he said, "You look like you got a lot of work to do." And I said, "Yeah, and I need help." And he said, "Well, I might be able to help you one day a week."
That's all it takes sometimes,
I'm
that quick.
You, and yeah,
your life can change in an instant.
I know. He turned out to be a wonderful man, and if it hadn't been for him, I wouldn't have had a big garden last year. Oh. We produced 200 pounds of sweet potatoes, and a lot.
That's what's cool about when you're on this journey, and you're focused on a goal, and things like that, serendipitous stuff just happens, and in an instant your life is 100 times better than it was, it just can change so quick.
I have always been the kind of person that just walks into a store, walks into a doctor's office, and I'll just stand there and go, "How's everybody doing today?" And I'll just start talking to people, and I think a lot of people are timid, and especially when you live in the city, you're more cautious, and you're just not going to blurt out things like that. You just sort of sit there and look at I walk into the doctor's office or the chiropractor's office, and there'll be 6 people there, and they're all looking at their phones. Nobody's talking, and I'll stand right in the middle, and I go, "How's everybody doing today?" What are we going to do about that wind?
And they're typing, "Some lady's bothering me right now."
That's
but exactly. From that opening, then you can go to, "Hey, well, you know what? I'm looking for a house painter. Do you know anybody good?"
There you go. Yep. That's
because
great.
you need recommendations. This is a hard lesson I learned is you don't hire somebody that you can't vet, that you don't know.
Word of mouth is powerful.
Yep. And mine is just snowballing now. You see how many wonderful people I'm meeting?
Yeah, really.
It's great.
Right. The final thing for my suggestion for finding some work, and it might also at the same time find you a place to go that you hadn't decided on maybe, is seasonal work. Okay, where it might be farm work where you're picking a crop or something, you can do that, but it might be you're working in a state or national park, or you're working for a place where they have housing, and they might provide a meal or two a day, and you're out doing some job clearing a trail or whatever, and that would get you out of the city. You'd be experiencing country life. You'd try a place you've never been before maybe to see, could I live around here? Would this work for me? And you could do different jobs like that if you're still indecisive about where to go. Don't take that lightly. That's an important decision. So take as long as you need to make that be a correct decision for you. And there's a place that can help you out there to find these seasonal kind of jobs. It's called CoolWorks, CoolWorks.com. And you can find seasonal work. You could be out of the city like that with a job and a place to live waiting for you. Okay, so, but here's the biggest, this is the most important thing that people are ignoring. This is a huge opportunity, okay? Baby boomers. Okay, I'm one, she's one. It was a swell of population. We're the biggest group of people, age group, you know. We moved through the age, we influenced building of schools and, you know, new cities and apartments, all kinds of things. Okay, there's a lot of baby boomers, and we're all getting old. You know, they're in their 60s, 70s, 80s, whatever. And they've lived an interesting life. They might be having a great farm going out in the country, and they're living the homestead lifestyle you want to live. And they need some help. You know, they're getting old. It's hard to do all that, but they still want to live there. They still want those chickens. They still want that garden, and they just need some help. And so, again, this is focused more toward young people, but what an opportunity, you know. And a lot of these people, they might have a nice place, and there's a nice guest cabin sitting over there at the end of the cornfield. Oh, well, you could just live there and help us every day for a few hours, and you're good to go. I mean, you never know what you're going to turn up like that, okay? And so you need to pay attention to all these gray-haired and white-haired and bald people walking around, okay? They have things, and they need help, and they can help you, and they can teach you stuff that you want to learn. So don't bypass that. And you can meet them, you know, go to a senior citizen center. You'll find a lot of them there. But here's a good tip, I think. If you're out in the country, and you know you want to be out in the country, in the farmland and all that, you're going to find out there's little cafes dotted here and there. And farmers like to congregate there in the morning and sip coffee and talk about things before they put in their day's work or whatever. Or it might just be a bunch of old retired farmers doing that. Don't ignore them either. They might need more help than the ones that have a job going on. And you know, just go hang out at the cafe in the morning when the coffee sipping is going on and be one of them. And talk to them and tell them what you want, what you're looking for, and what you have to offer, and let them see how friendly you are and trustworthy. Maybe they can get a feel for what kind of person you are. You're going to make real fast progress that way.
Yeah.
Just a few unique situations, arrangements that I've heard about over my life, and I thought this one was really cool how it worked out. There was an older lady. She was probably 85, I'd say, something like that, and she met this young couple in her community. And the woman was a massage therapist, and the guy was he did carpentry work. And so she asked them for some help, is how it started out. She had to get a repair on her garden fence, I think is what it was. And so she met them, and she liked them. And they became friends, and, you know, maybe a year or so later, she was getting a little more frail and unable to do things for herself, like you know, happens when you get old. And so she said, would you all be willing to, you know, I think it started out, they just came and cooked a main meal for her every day, is how it began. But as time went on and she needed more help, she finally said, look, I want to make a deal with you guys. I love this place and I don't want to leave this place. I want to stay here till I die, but I can't do this by myself. And I have, you know, I have these extra rooms here, and if you will move into this house and live here with me and just take care of me until I die, cook for me, clean for me, the whole thing, I will give you this farm. The 5 acres and the house will be yours. And so that's what happened. And they didn't spend a penny, and they got a 5-acre homestead. I mean, you know, that can happen.
It can happen.
So, you know, I'm not saying you can find that on every street corner, but, you know, you got to talk to people and get to know people and link up with people. So I'll tell you, the biggest thing the baby boomers are up against is, can I trust this young person?
Right.
And are they responsible? If I tell them to do these chores, are they really going to follow through and do it while I'm sitting in the Caribbean worrying? You know? Okay, so, you know, you got to build some trust with people. And that takes you can't do that with social media. I mean, you can get started with social media, but you need a face-to-face meeting and let them see who you are. This was Charlie, an old man that I knew out in New Mexico. I lived there for a while, and he was way high in the mountain. It was the mountain road that turned to gravel, and you went for miles yet, and it was the last farm way up there. He owned a huge ranch, 1,000 acres, maybe thousands of acres, I don't know, it was huge. And he had a nice house on it, and there were 2 other nice houses on this huge acreage, a lot of open land. They had horses and all kinds of stuff going on. And he had his own garden. Here he was. He had to be close to 90 when I knew him. and he was climbing up on his roof, repairing things. He was growing a garden, what you could grow up there in the mountains of New Mexico. You know, he grew some lettuce and broccoli pretty well. But anyway, he again, like that old lady I talked about, he didn't want to leave this place. He wanted to be there till he died. And so he put his farm up for sale, but it had a condition with it, and he found a buyer, and it all worked out. And the condition, you know, they paid full price for the entire ranch, you know, whatever it was. Now he has all that money. He's secure. There's no way he'd have time to spend all that money, I'm sure. But the condition was, I get to live in my house until I die. Now they had, you know, other houses that they could live in, and you know, a great distance between them. They weren't like staring at each other or anything like that. And so the buyers went for that totally. They thought that was fine. And so he lived out his life there. I'm sure he's no longer with us because he was that old 40 years ago. So the third one, this is a little funny. Okay, it was an old baby boomer, maybe older person, and maybe their savings had dwindled and they didn't have enough money coming in. They were, you know, on Social Security, and it wasn't quite enough. But they did own their property free and clear. And I don't know how big a property this was, or house and acreage, I don't know. But the guy made the deal that if you will pay me X amount per month for the rest of my life, okay, and he was an older guy, you know, he was, you know, older 80s something, okay, and if you'll pay me X amount per month for the rest of my life, when I die, the property is yours. Well, the buyer thought, yeah, I'd probably come out ahead on that. He's, you know, he probably won't live another 5 years or so. And, you know, if I pay that, I'll be getting a super deal. So they made the deal. The old guy lived to be 105.
That wasn't such a good deal after all.
They might have still come out ahead. I don't know.
Hey,
But
you know, if you become like family,
yeah,
you know, it's...
Right.
You know,
Yeah,
I had neighbors in my little street in California, they were all older men for some reason. Usually like in my hometown, all the husbands died.
Yes, that's normal. Right?
And then, but in this particular street, there was 1, 2, 3, 4 men that had lost their wives earlier. And they all lived in like to 90 or...
And I'll bet none of them knew how to cook.
Well,
That's pathetic.
I don't
think, do any Americans know how to cook now?
It's not that they didn't know how. It's that when you get that old, you're not that careful with the stove.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Okay,
So
that's true.
That's the problem. You really do need a caretaker if you're going to try to stay in your house at that age.
Yeah, once you start forgetting things and...
Yeah, in case you young folks don't realize it, getting old ain't so great, you know? Okay, in fact, somebody asked this real old lady, I think it was her 100th birthday, and they said, well, you know, how do you feel about being 100 years old? And she goes, it ain't no reward.
No reward?
It ain't no reward. And this is for people who have some money. I mean, the whole thing's pretty much been for people with no money, or it's beneficial to anyone.
Well, before you say that, I was just going to say that a number of times people have written and said, I'm dreaming of my homestead.
Yes.
They don't often say what their age is, but obviously it's, you don't, if you're just dreaming of your homestead and you're not doing it, then why? Is it just money?
Yeah.
Is it because you're alone? What is holding you back? Is it the fear? You know, maybe you'll, just in seeing this, you'll dispel some fears. A lot of what you've said is for younger folks, and I have a feeling the people that are writing me are not that young.
Right.
You know, like.
But even somebody in their 50s or 60s could help someone in their 80s.
That's
you know,
true.
I mean, you know,
that's true.
It doesn't have to eliminate
If you're
them.
industrious and you're determined to get out of the city, isn't that what the title of this video is?
Yeah.
Escape the city.
Escape the city with little or no money. Out of the box ideas that work.
Yeah.
Okay. As long as you work, they will
you
work.
have to work. That's a prerequisite.
This is if you have some money to work with. Maybe you're going out. You're going to try to buy some land. Look at owner financed land. Okay, because right now, you know, interest rates are super high. The banks are being real strict on who they're giving loans to, it's becoming more difficult. Maybe you have bad credit or a criminal record or something that's going to keep you from working with the bank. That doesn't eliminate things. Owner finance land, if you don't understand what that is, that's a guy owns some land and he decides that he wants to sell 10 acres off of his land and let someone live there and have be someone else's property. And so by owner financing, what that means is, what it means is you can come up with any arrangement that you two can agree on. Okay? So it's wide open. So, he might say, I need $10,000 down and so much a month. And you say, I only have $6,000. And so he says, okay, well, let's just raise the per month thing a little bit and I'll go with that. Things can still be worked out depending on what you have to offer, So, and the thing about owner finance land is you are taking a slight risk, a big risk maybe, because if you lose your job or something happens and you can't make your monthly payment, it's different than, you lose everything, okay? He can get you out of the house or off the piece of land, whatever it is, and all the equity you may have built up, maybe you've been there 2 or 3 years and then this happens. You lose everything. He gets to keep it all. And he can then put it back on the market and make that plus the sale price, Maybe he goes through 2 or 3 people before it finally sells and he ended up getting double what the land was worth. So it's a little bit of a gamble that has a little bit of reward attached for the landowner.
If you do make your payments, is it for sure that you get the land?
Oh, it's all it's all legal on contract. You do it with lawyers and all. It's not like some under the table thing, but it's wide open because it's just an agreement between 2 people. You can make it whatever you want.
You're already on the land, right?
Like if there's a house there, you move in immediately.
As soon as you sign the contracts,
it's your place. You can start painting the house, changing things, whatever. It's your house.
When I was looking at all options, and one of the properties I really liked didn't have a house on it, but it had hookups.
Yeah,
it had septic and electric.
Yep. And that is important. This is to the baby boomers that want help. If you can do it, if you have the land, and if you can set up a place for an RV to plug in and have septic and everything, well, then you find the person, they can just pull in there and that's their house and they're all set up. And now they're on your land and helping you and all that, So that would really facilitate being able to find someone a little easier, I think, if you had the hookups for it.
And I know a few people here in Tennessee that actually make a lot of their income. It pays for most of their mortgage, actually, by doing Airbnb rentals on their farm. And a couple of my friends, they have actual little small houses that people live in. Another friend has a bus that they converted for people to live in. Another is just like an RV spot where they pull in their RV and they pay a per night thing.
Right.
So these are fantastic ways to get more revenue.
If you're an older baby boomer and you need help, like I said, you could have the hookups for an RV, but if you can go a step further and put the RV there, get a camping trailer all hooked up, ready to go. Well, or build a little cabin or fix a little apartment up above your garage or whatever. If you can do that, well, now you're just waiting for the right person and you're all set up. And there's going to be people with no money, but maybe they have some skills and they're hard workers and they're honest and trustworthy. And you can find them, you two link up, and everybody's going to be happy with that arrangement. Again, you're looking for land and, maybe with limited funds, whatever. So you're looking for a deal. You want to, you can't buy something mansion or anything. So I suggest that you go have a look at the poorer counties of whatever state you're looking at. The lesser developed counties, okay, now you're going to be roughing a little more there. You might have to drive a lot further to get to a Lowe's or a Walmart or whatever your store you like. You have to drive to a bigger city. But the further away you are from those kinds of amenities, the cheaper the land gets.
Right.
But also, these underdeveloped counties and stuff are the poor counties where, you look at the median income is very low. Okay, that means there's not going to be a lot of job opportunities there. There might be more crime, there might be more drugs, meth or something like that, so you just, you got to watch out about that kind of thing about the poor counties. But, I lived in some poor counties and, it's not, there's nothing horrible about it and you can get better deals there. So it might be right for you.
Right.
And now here's another one. Even if you have some money or, again, if you have no money, go online and look up intentional communities. There are established communities where people have come together. I lived in one for 10 years, a long time ago, where we came together, and none of us had enough money to buy a real nice piece of land, but by pooling our money together, we bought 165 acres, beautiful, some cleared, a lot of woods, and springs and creeks in it and everything. It was great. Okay, and then the money got pooled to buy a tractor that we all could use if we wanted, and rototillers and things for the garden. It was all community owned.
I think that's a great idea. It's too bad we don't have more of those.
That's kind of the future I see for a lot of young people who want to do this, is teaming up with other families or other young people to go in on land together.
But a big caution now. Really I lived it for 10 years, and I spent a lot of time traveling this country and around the world a little bit. I went to Australia and New Zealand, and my main thing on that trip was touring intentional communities. Okay, and I did that in America, different states and stuff. And, you know, I noticed some patterns and you know, saw them in my own community. You know, okay, you get together with just what you think are like-minded people. You say, yeah, we're all into homesteading and raising animals and our own food and educating our own kids and building our own houses. Okay, that's kind of what it was for that group I was with. And, you know, so we all got together and we all thought we were, you know, with like-minded people. But the more time goes by, the more things pop up, and, you know, politically, religiously, you know, how to do gardening. There's different opinions and disagreements and hassles, and, you know, it's not smooth sailing all the time. You're working stuff out with a group of people, okay? You don't get to make your own decisions on a situation like that. It's a group decision whether you get to dig a pond or, you know, make a garden over there.
Yeah.
We all say okay first. So you have a lot of community meetings, a lot of time talking, you know, it kind of wore me out. I wanted my own land after a while.
Which is why I think a better situation would be to pool the money as a group to buy the 165, then you deed it out equally to all those people, and you make those agreements ahead of time.
That is the best way.
And then it's done, it's legal, it's done.
But it's difficult to do because whatever piece of land you buy,
there's better pieces.
Some parcels are going to be great.
True.
That one has a spring. That one's got all the flat land.
That's true.
You know, I mean,
that's true.
It's going to be hard to make those divisions and equitably divide them money-wise and all that. So people have been doing this kind of thing in America for hundreds of years, making communities, intentional communities. The ones that have survived the longest are the ones that had a religious thing in common.
Yeah,
okay?
like the Amish and the Mennonites.
Yeah, they had a religious belief binding them, or even a religious leader over the community. That you know, that was kind of how the farm in Tennessee had. Stephen Gaskin was sort of the spiritual leader of the farm. You can buy land that maybe it's been clear cut. It looks rough. Boy, they give you a good deal when you buy that. And you could plant it full of bamboo and live in a bamboo forest.
Now we're talking.
You know, I had to mention bamboo today.
But you know, you actually could do that and make money from the bamboo.
Right.
Yep.
Or I knew a guy that bought, I don't know, I think it was 50 acres about, you know, something about that size. It was over in East Tennessee. And it had a little bit of cleared land along the road and a little farmhouse sitting there. And the rest was sloped land and it was all wooded. But the trees were pretty good-sized trees. So he bought the land and he had people come in and clear cut the whole thing down.
Oh, no.
And he sold all those trees and he paid for that property completely with those trees. And now he has pasture land and a big pond that he was able to build with the money he made. And, you know, it's growing back. It's mostly pasture land now, but, you know,
He's got no trees.
he planted some fruit trees and things like that, you know. But
I'd hate to be in Tennessee without trees.
right. But it was a desperate thing for, you know,
No, I
he
understand.
couldn't pay for the land otherwise.
It's better to be out to not have debt.
Yes.
I mean,
All right, and the final one I'll talk about, and this is for people with maybe limited money, is look for counties, and there are quite a few around the country, quite a few here locally in Tennessee, that have no building codes. Now, why that's important is because you could buy a raw piece of land, and you can go in there and just live in a teepee. Okay, now the only
yurt.
yeah, or a yurt or whatever, you know, there's no restriction. You can build a house out of a straw bale house or you know,
Concrete.
any of these alternative building things. Build yourself an earthship if you got the money. Go to a county with no building codes and you can build whatever you want and live in it.
Yeah.
The only thing in Tennessee, and it might be different in other states, is if you want electricity brought into your property, you have to set up a septic system first.
Yeah.
And supposedly you're not even allowed to have outhouses in Tennessee anymore, is what somebody told me. So, you know, you're going to have a composting toilet or a septic system. But just with a composting toilet, you won't be able to get electricity brought in there. But if maybe you're thinking off-grid and you're going to do solar panels and a composting toilet, you can do that in a county with no building codes. A lot more freedom. That's where freedom still reigns in America.
No building codes.
Yeah, they say the whole country's free. Well, no, it's not. I mean, if you look how many counties have building codes, that's the parts that are free, at least in that way.
Yeah.
Lots of other freedoms that might be restricted, like we're all experiencing nowadays.
Yeah,
So
I
anyway,
think living off grid is you would experience the most amount of freedom.
Absolutely.
right.
Yeah.
But that's that seems to be everybody's thing. It's like, I'm going to get out of the city and go live off grid and be done with all this mess and all. And that's a great goal. But you really kind of need some money to make all that happen.
Yeah.
So on a limited thing, that might be a more distant goal. You just want to get yourself out of the city as soon as you can. Be out there in the country, living that lifestyle, learning how to garden, meeting people that do that kind of thing. And, maybe you'll live in some situations that are below your standards for a while, but you're saving money all the while. And eventually you buy some land, or you make friends with some old boomers who decide to give you their property after they die. You never know. You got to get out there first.
Hooray.
Yeah. That's
Hey,
great.
well, everybody, thank you so much for hanging in with us through this long explanation of how to escape the city, and with Stephen at Nature's Always Right YouTube channel. This is Daryl Luck and Kaye Kittrell, late bloomer. We're so happy that you joined us. Please hit the subscribe button on each of our channels and share them with your friends. And we look forward to coming to you again very soon.
Good luck.
Yes. Nice. That was great.
Escape while you can.
Sure. That was great. Nice job.